Hello everyone, welcome to the Mifratech. Today we are going to discuss another new language called MySQL. MySQL is an structured query language. In this session we are going to see an introduction about the MySQL. Let's start with the session 1. In this tutorial, MySQL tutorial provides basic and advanced concepts of MySQL, and it is a relational database management system based on the structured query language, which is the popular language for accessing and managing the records in the database. And it is an open source software, and it is supported and developed by the Oracle company. Next, we will see what is database. A database is an application that stores and organizes the collection of records. Before learning an MySQL concept, we want to be familiar with the database, to how to create a database and knowing a database. It is a simple way. It is a application that stores and organizes the collection of records called as a database. It can be accessed and managed by the user very easily. It organizes into table, rows, columns, and indexes to find relevant information very quickly. Each database contains a distinct API for performing database operations. Some of operations the database performing are creating, managing, accessing, and searching the database where it stores. And in this, and we use many databases in familiar like that, MySQL, Oracle, MongoDB, NoSQL also, PostgreSQL, SQL Server, and many more, etc. And we are going with the MySQL function mainly. Now let us see what is MySQL. And it is the most popular database management system software used for managing the relational database. And it is an open source database software which is supported by the Oracle company. And some of the features of MySQL are: it is a fast, scalable, and easy to use and easy to maintain the records. Comparing with the Microsoft SQL Server and an Oracle database, because of its future, where many projects were being used, and it is commonly used in the conjunction with the PHP script for creating a powerful and dynamic server-side or a website enterprise application. For developing any software, we use an MySQL because it will connect with the PHP, and it will give a dynamic website and storing in a database. And here you can see developed marketed by the MySQL AB and written in C and many. MySQL is a relational database management software that provides many things, which there are some follows. It allows us to implement a database operation on table, rows, columns, and indexes. Let's see further one by one. It defines the database relationship in the form of tables, in the form of rows and columns, known as a relation. Collection of rows and columns is known as a relation. It provides the referential integrity between rows and columns of various tables. It allows us to update the table index automatically. We use many SQL queries and combine useful information from multiple tables for the end users. Let's see how MySQL works. When you see an image here, you can understand easily. When the client requests to the server responds to the client. It is a simple way how MySQL works. We can take an example of a form, any registration form. When we fill it out, that the database, the data what you have entered, or any data you have entered, that access will be requested to the server, and the server will be responsive to the client immediately. MySQL follows the client-server architecture. The model is designed for the end users called clients to access the resource from a central computer known as a server using a network services. Here, the clients make requests through a graphical user interface GUI, and the server will give the desired output as soon as the instructions are matched. The processor of MySQL environment is same as the client server model. We have a model here. The architecture used is client server architecture. And some of the MySQL features. It is a relational database management system based on the structured query language. It is the most popular languages. It is a free software, easy to manage, easy case to use. It is a free software we can use. Some of the features. Relational database management system. MySQL is a relational database management system. The database language is based on the SQL queries, structured query language queries, to access and manage the records of the table. Same easy to use. It is secured language. It works with the client server architecture. There is a database server and arbitrarily many clients application programs which communicate with the server. That is, they can query data, save changes, etc. Take an example of the registration form. Once it will get the condition, the name must be some type of characters and the password some with an alphanumeric, like they work with on. It is free to download. It is scalable, speed, high flexibility, compatible on many operation systems. We can use SQL can use with many operating system, not only with the Windows, not only with the Linux. We can use in Unix such as the Sun, Solaris, AIX, OS by2, FreeBSD, and others. We can use any software. The compatible systems were supported by the SQL, and allows a rollback. The rollback we will discuss in the commands, because when we transact or when we get to the code, once it has been deleted, it can be rolled back, it can be retrieved by the SQL. Memory efficiency. Its efficiency is high because it has a very low memory leakage problem. The SQL queries does not contain a large amount of memory. It will contain a very less memory. High performance. It is a faster, more reliable, cheaper because of Unix storage engine architecture. Very high performance results in comparison to the other databases without losing an essential functionality of the software. It has a fast loading utilities because of the different cache memory. High productivity. MySQL use triggers, stored procedures and views that allow developer to give higher productivity. Triggers we will let to know once we will get to the commands. And there are some drawbacks or disadvantages of an MySQL. There are few. MySQL version less than 5.0 does not support a role, commit and a stored procedure, and it does not support a very large database size as efficiently. It does not handle transactions very efficiently, and it is prone to data corruption also. When there is a huge data and we want to transit it leads to a data corruption. It leads to a data mismatch also. MySQL is accused that it does not have a good developing and a debugging tool compared to the paid databases. It is a free software, MySQL. If you take in a paid software, comparing to a paid and free, it does not have some good debugging options and many more. If you get a paid, we get a lot of more options to create, to manage and anything. MySQL does not support a SQL check constraint. Check constraints does not have been supported. And next we will move on to the MySQL data types. A data type specifies the particular type of data like integer, float, points, boolean, character. It also defines the possible value for that type, the operations that can be performed on that type, and the way and the values of that type are stored. The In MySQL, each database table has many columns and contains specific data types for each column. Here you want to observe in any other programs we have given a one data type, or we have mentioned to any one, it will take other or it will match. In MySQL, we are creating in a column, we are creating in a rows. We want to mention for each column. We want to specify with the each column. MySQL supports a lot number of SQL standard data types in a various categories. It uses many different data types that can be broken into the following categories: numeric data type, date and time, string types, special types, etc. Let's see several few of the data types, how it be supported. Numerical data type, MySQL has all essential SQL numerical data types. These data types can include the exact numeric data types. Following examples are integer, decimal, numeric, etc. We can take integer and the decimal when we creating a table. Int size, for example, as well as the approximate numeric data types are example float, real and double. Float, we can give salary, example salary to the float. It also supports BIT data type to store a bit values. We don't use this data type as much. In MySQL, numeric data types are categories into two types, either signed or the unsigned, except for the bit data type. Here you can see a big int from where the number it starts and where the number it ends. Big int, sum of the big number, and int has been started -2147483648 to 2147483647, and the small int 32767. When you given the small int, the value is taken for this only 32767, and tiny int 0 to 255. Bit will take to 0 and 1, and the decimal number and the numeric number and the money and the small money, you can see these are the some of the data types, and the values from where it starts and where it ends. Date and time data type, it is used to represent a temporal value such as date time, timestamp and year. Each temporal type contains value including 0. When we insert the invalid value, MySQL can't represent it, and then 0 value is shown. When we creating in a date and time, when we entering in a date and time, it is a temporal values. When we given an invalid value, it represents as in a 0. It can't represent the date and time, it will represent in a 0. Here you can see a date type. Date time from Jan 1 1753 to December 31st 9999, and small date time 1902279. It will be upgraded. Date stores date like June at the present time it will store. Time at the present time it will be displayed. String data types. The string data type is used to hold plain text and binary data, for example files, images, etc. MySQL can perform a searching and comparison of a string value based on pattern matching such as like operator, regular expressions, etc. In a string data types, we use for the plain text. When we creating a table, the character, the name was on a character, or any name was the username must be on a variable and a character. We use in a varchar. Here you can see and some of the data type and the description. Character maximum length of the character is 8000. Fixed length non-Unicode characters. Varchar refers to a variable character, example username, maximum 8000 characters, variable length non-Unicode characters. Varchar max, here varchar max we can give the value in the max place. Varchar I am giving in a 10, for example it will take in a 10 variable and characters only. And the text, that is in a plain text, the maximum length 2147483647 characters it will take. And there are many other data types. These are the similar way we use, so we have discussed this much only. Next, MySQL variables. Variables are used for storing a data or information during the execution of program. The variables, the storing of any data. In simpler way, the storing of any data is called a variable during the execution of program. It is a way of labeling data with an appropriate name that helps us to understand the program more clearly by the reader. The main purpose to variable is to store data in memory and can be used throughout the program. MySQL can use variables in three different types, which are user-defined, local, and the system variable. The user-defined variable, sometimes we want to pass values from one statement to another statement. The user-defined variable enables us to store a value in one statement and later can refer it to another statement. Here MySQL provides a set and a select statement to declare and initialize a variable, where you can see the syntax. By using the set statement, set at variable name is equals to value. Here you can see in a note, we can use either is equals to or is equals to assignment operator with the set statement. By using select at variable name and the value. You can see the example here. Local variable, it is a type of variable that is not prefixed by at symbol. The local variable is a strongly typed variable. The scope of the local variable is in a stored program block in which it is declared. MySQL uses the declare keyword to specify the local variable. The declare statement also combines a default clause to provide a default value to a variable. If you do not provide a default clause, it will give the initial value null, and it is mainly used in the stored procedure program. You can see the syntax: declare variable name, data type, size, default value. When we have not given a default, it will take a null value, null variable. You can see here default, we have not given 8,2, the default was not mentioned, it will take a 0.0, it is taken a null value. System variable. System variables are a special class to all program units which contains predefined variables. MySQL contains various system variables that configure its operation, and each system variable contains a default value. We can change some system variables dynamically using the set statement at a runtime. Next, we will see how to create a MySQL database. MySQL create database. A database is used to store the collection of records in an organized form in a particular manner. It allows us to hold the data into tables, rows, columns, and indexes to find the relevant information frequently. We can access and manage the records through the database very easily. MySQL implements a database as a directory that stores all the files in the form of a table. It allows us to create a database mainly in two ways: MySQL command line client and MySQL workbench. We are working with the MySQL command line client. We can create a new database in MySQL by using the create database. It is a simpler form. Create database and a database name. It is the main syntax. Here you can see the syntax: create database name, if not a database name. That's it. Create database, the database name where we are creating a database. Collect collection, create character set name. It is not required. We can create simpler way. Example, let us understand how to create a database in MySQL with the help of the example. Open the MySQL console, write down the password, and if we set during the installation, now we are ready to create a database. When you are installing the SQL, open the MySQL, then we are creating an employee DB as a database. The simple code is create database. The database name was employee DB, create database, employee DB. It returns the database has been created successfully. MySQL select database. Next we will select, like we have created a database, so we will select the database is there or not. Select database is used in the MySQL to select a particular database to work with it. This query is used when a multiple databases are available in the MySQL server. We can use, or you can use, the SQL command used to select the particular database. Use database name, it will show the database. Use employee DB, it will show, it will give the particular output. Then MySQL show list databases. When we work with the MySQL server, it is a common task to show or list the database. Because when we have created, when we have inserted a record, so many records, we want to see that record, we want to see the database, how it has been, is there or what. So we will use the show. Information of user accounts and their privileges that resides on the server. In this article, we are going to focus how to list database in the MySQL server. We can list all the database available on the MySQL server hosting using the following command as shown below. You can enter it a code as a show databases. It will give a particular output. Then MySQL drop database. When we have created a wrong database, we can drop, or we don't have a database, I want to create a new one, we can drop, like a delete. We can drop, delete, remove an MySQL database quickly with the MySQL drop database command. It will delete the database along with all the table indexes and the constraint permanently. Therefore, we should have to be very careful while removing a database in MySQL, because we will lose all the data available in that database. Once we have given the drop database, the database name, we will lose all what we have been created. We will all lose the database. The full database file we will lose. If the database is not available in the MySQL server, the drop database statement throws an error. When we have given a wrong database name, it will give an error. Syntax drop database, the database name. Example, drop database employee DB. I am deleting an employee DB database. Then MySQL copy database. If you want to copy another database or existing database, we can use the copy. A database is an application used to storing the organized collection of records that can be accessed and managed by the user. It holds the data into tables, rows, columns. Say MySQL copy or clone database is a feature that allows us to create a duplicate copy of an existing database, including the table structure, indexes, constraints, default values, etc. Making a duplicate copy of an original database into a new database is very useful when accidentally our database is lost or failure. When you are deleting, the copy database is useful. We have a similar copy, we have created another copy like that. The most common use of making duplicate copy of the database is for data backups. The most useful is for a data backup. It is also useful when planning the major changes to in the structure of the original database. When you are making a changes, any major change, we can copy the main database and then we can make a change. In this session, we have discussed about the MySQL introduction, the starting introduction, how MySQL works, how to create a database, drop a database and copy a database. In next session, we will come up with the further MySQL commands, how the structure, how it will work, many more. And thank you for watching this video.